Gone, but never forgotten. Welcome back to Beyond the Screen, I'm Nate, and today we're breaking down the top 10 celebrities that passed away in 2023. Number 10, Tina Turner. She was simply the best, and better than all of the rest. Tina Turner is considered one of the original queens of rock and roll. Between the early 1950s and the mid-2000s, Tina Turner was ripping her way through country after country, delivering hit after hit. What's Love Got to Do With It, Simply the Best, Acid Queen, and those are just the songs we were gifted with during her time as a solo artist. Before divorcing her evil ex, Ike Turner, the couple would perform together as Ike and Tina. Tina's real name was Anna Mae Bullock. The name Tina was actually forced upon her by Ike as a form of control. As many now know, Ike was absolutely horrible to Tina and did things that we can't talk about on this channel, which is why after so many years of overcoming obstacle after obstacle, it crushed the world when Tina was taken from us at the age of 83 on May 24th, 2023. She will always be remembered as a pure soul with a voice of gold. We had so much respect for this woman. She took a name that was meant to bring her down and she turned it into a legend. Number 9, Jerry Springer. Well, our guest today may be a little controversial, but what the heck. Those were words surely spoken many times by the man that they call Jerry Springer, a name that surely sparks the visual of a fight breaking out on stage and a low-grain camera capturing it all in front of a live studio audience. Ah, the good old days. He hosted the Jerry Springer Show from 1999 to 2016, broadcasting over 1,900 episodes for our viewing pleasure. For anyone that doesn't know, Jerry was known for bringing controversial figures on his show to either discuss or confront the situation surrounding their presence. He's brought in men with white cloaks, people who've married horses. The spectrum of his guests is wide, which is why his show was so much fun to watch. It was sad when news broke of his death in 2023 following a long, strenuous battle with pancreatic cancer. Here's hoping that wherever he is, he's not in the middle of an onstage brawl. Number 8, Michael Lerner. You may recognize Michael's face from a number of classic flicks. He was the bank manager in the movie Blank Check, a film that is so weird and underrated it is like peak Disney. If you haven't seen it, just go watch it and then come back. He may have received an Academy Award nomination for his role as Jack Lipnick in the film Barton Fink back in the day, but I think we all know where this guy is from. He starred in the holiday classic Elf as Fulton Greenway, a big boss at a publishing company that just won't get off of James Caan's back. He instilled a sense of anxiety towards every boss that I've ever had, as he was the last man you would want to disappoint. Seriously, this man just loves his deadlines. In April of this year, Michael passed away following brain complications caused by seizures. His spirit will live on every year though when we cozy up during the holiday seasons to watch the classic Christmas flick Blank Check. Seriously, go watch it, it's so good. Number 7, Lance Reddick. Good evening, Mr. Wick. Welcome to the Continental. Lance Reddick starred in many TV movies and made small appearances on sitcoms in his early days of acting, but he first broke onto the big screen starring as Anton Lafarge in the 1998 film Great Expectations, a modernization of Charles Dickens' classic story of the same name, following a painter in New York City pursuing his childhood love. The film starred Ethan Hawke in the leading role, Gwyneth Paltrow, Hank Azaria, Robert De Niro, but it was Lance that stole the show. He went on to star in several big budget projects over the years, eventually landing a role on the hit TV thriller series The Wire as Cedric Daniels. He starred alongside actors like Keanu Reeves, Denzel Washington, Channing Tatum, but the attention was always drawn to him for every moment he was on screen. Earlier this year, a congestive heart disease took Lance from this world at the age of 61 years old. Yeah, that's right, this guy was in his 60s. Luckily for us, there was one movie left to be released following Lance's passing. White Men Can't Jump just landed on Disney Plus, with Lance starring as one of the main characters, Benji, so at least we get to check that out. Number 6, Richard Belzer. In the criminal justice system, people are represented by two separate yet equally important groups: the police who investigate crime and the district attorneys who prosecute the offenders. These are their stories. This is the introduction to one of my father's favorite TV shows of all time, Law and Order. Since the day I was brought home, the legendary intro and song was constantly on my screen. I practically grew up with the Special Victims Unit. Richard Belzer played John Munch, a retired detective who returns to the force as a sergeant assigned to the SVU. Richard played Munch for 326 episodes before the show was eventually taken off the air in 2016. That didn't mark the end of Richard's acting days, however, as he went on to star in the popular Robert De Niro pick The Comedian in 2016, in which he played a fictionalized version of himself. Unfortunately for SVU fans, Richard passed away in February of this year following years of respiratory and circulatory complications. It looks like crime in the afterlife will never go unpunished again. If there is crime, I don't know, do people like still steal stuff when they pass? Number 5, David Crosby. While this last name sounds familiar, David shares absolutely no relation to the hockey legend Sidney, which is shocking because he has like 6 kids, so you'd think one of them would be a hockey player. David Crosby made up a third of the legendary folk rock group Crosby, Stills, Nash, alongside fellow founders Stephen Stills and Graham Nash. After the trio performed together in 1968, they discovered that their voices harmonized extremely well and decided to form a full-on band. The timing was perfect. David had just been asked to leave the Byrds, Stephen's band Buffalo Springfield had just broken up, and Nash left his band The Hollies the December prior to meeting his new bandmates. Eventually, the trio branched out and invited Canadian treasure Neil Young to be their 4th member, performing as Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young. They were even a part of the very first Woodstock Festival in 1969. At the end of a tour in the mid-70s though, the band split following some tension behind the scenes. They reconciled for the music and have gotten together a few times over the years, sometimes with Young and sometimes without him. Through it all, David gave 100%, and the music showcased that effort. Unfortunately, earlier this year, Crosby fell ill with a lung infection and passed in his sleep. Before passing, he had been inducted into the Hall of Fame with his fellow bandmates and will always be remembered for his killer pipes and his thick mustache. Number 4, Burt Bacharach. My first introduction to Burt was at the age of 8 when I watched the movie Austin Powers International Man of Mystery. Austin and his date/fellow agent are enjoying dinner on a double-decker bus in London when Austin gestures to the side and says, "Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Burt Bacharach." Suddenly, there's Burt, playing a massive piano and singing "What the world needs now is love, sweet love." This moment has lived rent-free in my brain ever since, and sparked the random taste in music that I still have to this day. Like, who's Lizzo? Give me Engelbert Humperdinck any day. Although, of course Burt was best known by many people for his musical chops. It's been said that Burt was one of the most important and influential figures in the pop music industry since the early 1950s. Over the years, Burt collaborated with several well-respected musicians like Tom Jones and Dusty Springfield. He received 6 Grammys, 3 Academy Awards, and 1 Emmy for his primetime special, Singer Presents Burt Bacharach, a live TV taping in which Barbra Streisand appeared. They played music, discussed their careers and favorite songs. Burt was tickling the keys till the day he passed, collaborating with many composers and lyricists over the years. He even composed and arranged an original score for a film called A Boy Called Poe at the age of 88 years old. And in February of this year, Burt passed away at the age of 94 and closed his piano lid for good. Between him, David, and Tina, heaven's going to have some solid music, that is for sure. Number 3, Jeff Beck. Jeff Beck was a British musician who first began rising to stardom in the early 1970s after forming the band Night Shift. Eventually that band broke up, but Beck went on to have an awesome solo career, eventually landing him 8 Grammy Award wins, the first being Best Rock and Roll Instrumental Performance for Escape, a song from the album Flash that was to accompany the movie of the same name. While his name may not be familiar to you, his guitar licks most certainly are. Jeff has contributed his talent to several top charting songs over the years, including Bon Jovi's Blaze of Glory solo album. He played lead on Roger Waters' concept album Amused to Death and Red Shoes by Kate Bush, and just so many more, I could keep going. In 1992, his former band The Yardbirds was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and he famously stated that he wasn't proud of the band at all because he was not proud of a band that kicked him out. Beck continued to work as a solo artist right up to 2020 when he released a new single album in which he collaborated with Johnny Depp to cover John Lennon's song Isolation. The song came out only 1 month after the events of March 2020, so this cover really hit home for a lot of people. Beck passed away from bacterial meningitis infection in January of this year, taking both his talent and his passion with him. Number 2, Tom Sizemore. Tom first broke into the acting world in the 1989 thriller Blue Steel, starring Hollywood icon Jamie Lee Curtis in the leading role. Unfortunately for me, I only recognize him as a certain truck driver from an episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia called The Gang Gets Stranded in the Woods, which, needless to say, was not the best example of his acting abilities. He would pop up in several big budget movies over the years, including Saving Private Ryan, Natural Born Killers, Pearl Harbor, almost always playing a strong, intimidating, macho type character. In March of this year, the truck driver with a penchant for pleasure passed away due to a brain aneurysm. However, throughout 2022, he starred in several projects, both low and big budget, so if you're a fan, just go hop on IMDb and binge, baby. At number 1, Ryuichi Sakamoto. I'm going to avoid saying his full name during this segment just in case I am butchering it. You may not recognize Ryu by his face, but how about his scores? And I'm not talking about football, I'm talking about music. While most of his work has predominantly taken place in Japan, he's been tapped by American directors time and time again to lend a hand on creating the musical backdrops for the entire project. His work was showcased in movies like Femme Fatale, The Revenant, and The Last Emperor. His scores set an eerily beautiful tone to whatever project was presented to him. The film The Revenant starred Leo DiCaprio as a frontiersman fighting for his life in the wilderness following a bear attack. The movie featured little dialogue, but the music backing the project carried the entire thing right through to the end. Sure, Leo won an Oscar that year, but Ryu should be praised for making the movie watchable in the first place. In March of this year, Ryu passed away following a long and difficult battle with throat cancer. His passion lives on through his hundreds of successful projects that are still able to be enjoyed to this day. So, hey, go check them out. And there you have it, you guys. Those are the top 10 celebrities that have passed away this year. And for once, I really hope we don't have enough to make a part 2, because hey, we lost some pretty good people this year. As always, thank you guys for checking out our content, and we will see you next time.